Parashat Terumah, dedicated to Refuah Shlema of Chana Aliza bat Shendel Nechama, Chaim Yisrael Alevi ben Batya, Shimona Netana bat Chana, Avraham ben Esther, Simcha ben Sarah. Okay, so Parashat Terumah, Terumah, because we were doing Terumah in the Gemara, opens with the words, דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחו לי תרומה ועשו לי מקדש. Speak to, God is talking to Moshe. He said, speak to Bnei Israel and they should take a Terumah. Terumah is, the way we know it, a donation. Right? And they should take it from me. ועשו לי מקדש, and they should build me a temple. Very weird. And then it says, ושכנתי בתוכם. And then I would dwell among them. The Zohar places in this parasha the foundations to maybe one of the most important principles that we have for the success of a person. And that principle is what going to determine if at the end of your life, a person could look back and feel that he lived a full, fulfilled, and meaningful life, and not life of suffering and misery. And I'm not talking about suffering and misery of a physical thing, but the greatest misery and suffering is really an emotional and mental. Now, the secret for this idea is actually in the name of the parasha itself, Parashat Terumah. So, as we said before, Terumah means a donation. Litrom, to donate, to give. But the root of that is not tafresh mem, taram, but rather harem. So therefore, mazel harim, to lift. So what's the connection between lifting and giving? But by the way, what happened when they used to give a Terumah? What they used to do? They used to lift it up. So what's the inyan? Why if when the people donated money for the Mishkan, they lifted everything up? Or what's the story with this? Like, what the Kohanim was like getting a free gym workout here, or what's the story with this? So the Zohar explains that the word Terumah we need to read actually as two words. Tarum, Hashem. Tarum, right? Lift, and then the letter Hey, which is in the name of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. According to the Kabbalah, the letter Hey in this case symbolizes and represents the Sfera of Malchut. And this is the last Hey in the Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud, and then Hey, and then Vav, and then Hey. So this is for that, and that represents the reality of life in which we are at. If you talk about the Yud Kei Vav Kei, so the four different worlds, which is Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. So that's going to be the Sfera of Malchut in the realm of Asiyah, which represents our reality here in life. Our wishes, our needs, the reality in which we experience in this world, each and every one of us. The Ari explains that the reality of our lives is a direct derivative of the placement of that Hey when it's connected to its appropriate place in the name of Hashem. And that is the Hey, El, and then the word Hashem. And everything works in our life as it should work, and everything is fine when there is a certain flow, and there is an undisturbed flow, and there's no blockage. And what is actually flowing? It's not water down the Mississippi or sewer down the Hudson, but rather light. That light that goes out there, which is the shefa and the abundance and so on and so forth, and harmony goes through that. However, usually that hay is in exile. The last hay is separated, is in exile, and it was removed from its place and was, from its natural place, call it natural spiritual habitat. And it was wandering around, wending out to exile. So our reality, as a result of inappropriate awareness, call it selfishness, anger, blaming other people, not owning your own life, your own faults, feeling always guilty and apologetic, jealousy, pride, depression, not happy, and so on and so forth, basically disconnect itself from the source of life. There's no life with there. I mean, look at this way. The food that we eat is so processed that it's dead. And
Technically, yes.
Sure. I mean, it's like there's no nourishment. It's already processed. It doesn't come in its natural form.
It's the soil.
There are certain types of diets that's called like even raw diet. They don't even cook it. They just eat things the way they are. And it's still some kind of life with it. I mean, all we do when we cook the food is, we bring flavors up. But in terms of the livelihood of the food, it's dead. It's gone. And so therefore, the more processed your food is, the sicker you will get. And we're not talking about Rastafarian Ital, but it's the same idea. It's the same idea. That's why, for example, eating meat it's a real dead animal. It's dead. I mean, it's not a dead. Plants are different. You take a plant, you cut the top of it, you're going to put it in water, it'll grow. One time I grew burdock root in my garden from that. I grew so many different things just from. I wanted to see it. I was amazed by the will of life implanted into creation that it wanted to live. You call it sprouting, you call it nature. I see something else completely in it. You're going to take you're going to come up with all these like biological reasons for that. But you're going to take, carrot or tomato, you put it outside, you put it in the refrigerator, it's going to live, it's going to stay well, it'll do well for a while. You're going to take a piece of chicken, you're going to put it outside one day, it already smells like somebody died there. So you think about this. Our reality is so removed and disconnected that even the food that we eat doesn't do anything to us. That's why we all look in the way we look. Our skin is dull, we're overweight, we're tired, we're nasty, we smell, we age quickly. Do I need to tell you about the Jamaican friend? That's an example. Look how amazing this guy looks. And, I mean, you could do your own research and I guess you can put your dots yourself. Yeah, that's because, but that's not because he smokes like a chimney. He just eats that. He doesn't eat anything processed. Nothing. Would not eat anything processed. So, when that comes, it disconnects itself from its source of life, and then everything falls apart. There's no shefa, there's no bracha in the food, or in anything in your life that you do. So you eat, but there's no nourishment. That's why I'm so much against this processed meat and processed this and GMO. I mean, you disconnected it from the source of life. It's so bad for you. Bad for you. And so therefore, the world in which we live in is divided into two different types of reality. Now, you want to tell me, what are you talking about? Well, there's two different types of reality. You know, my reality could be completely different than your reality, even though we're sharing experiences and so on together. One reality is connected to its source, and the other one is disconnected from vitality and the source of life. The reality of Gola, exile, versus the reality of Geula, redemption. Gola, exile, Geula, redemption. The difference between the two is one letter, the letter Aleph. The letter Aleph represents here the Hebrew word of light, all. As soon as we're able to allow to enter the light to our lives, we would be able to turn and to switch Gola to Geula. That's why I told you many times, exile, Galut, is not a geographic place. It is a state of mind. You could live in Israel under the Western Wall and still be in absolute exile mentality. And yet you could live in Mongolia and experience complete redemption. Geula or Galut, redemption or exile, starts with your mind. It's not the physical body. Now, and the connection for this light is in this parasha as well. The connection to this light is in parasha, and that is the Mishkan, tabernacle, and the Mikdash, the temple, that came right after that. Just to remind you, in case anybody forgot over there in internet, well, first of all, I just need to remind you that if you have any questions, you can reach us at rabbigaon@gmail.com. You can check us on yeshiva.etzion.com, and that's our website. We are also on Instagram, and we are on YouTube, and we are on, I don't know, so many other things. Facebook. And I'm not going to tell you, just subscribe right here and press the button right there. I'm not going to do that. I'm sure you're intelligent enough to figure it out. And I'm sure you're intelligent enough to see a good thing when you see it and then commit yourself to it. So, the Galut and Geula, as we said, the two different realities, which have to do, and you see the Terumah has to do with the Mishkan, in which they placed the menorah, and later on they placed the same menorah, the candelabra, they placed it in the temple. Where was the temple? Where was the original Jewish temple? Anybody knows?
I mean,
what?
The wilderness.
What?
The temple.
Oh, the temple.
That's, I guess, the media got to you, huh?
Harabait.
And what? Harabait. How do we call the Harabait in English?
Temple Mount.
The Temple Mount. Temple Mount is Jewish, not Arab. Sorry. They are. Well, I guess with the whole problem with evictions today, we're still stuck with this. But
Squatters.
I guess yes, they're squatting. Basically, the Arabs are squatting in our Temple Mount. So the connection to the light and everything else, it's kind of difficult to understand, And we should not take it literally so easy as something that is completely understood for granted, because even Shlomo HaMelech, in Sefer
קהלת.
משלי.
שיר השירים?
מלכים א',
חוץ.
פרק,
י"ב.
פרק,
היי.
okay, there's only 22 chances, chet, verse,
י"ב. י"ב.
that's why you guys never win the lottery,
ט"ז.
27, said the following, he had Shlomo HaMelech had a kasha. What was a kasha? Ki ha'omnam yishev ha'Elohim al ha'aretz? What, is God going to really dwell in the land? Hinei ha'shamayim u'shmei ha'shamayim lo yechalkelucha. The heavens would not be able to obtain and hold you. So the earth in this house, af ki habayit hazeh asher baniti, even this house in which I built, it just doesn't make sense. Shlomo HaMelech. So this whole entire project of building a house, a building for God, it also seems like maybe even idol worshiping. God needs a house. But God needs a house. And so many different things about it. God needs the smell of shish kebab over there, making barbecue on the altar. It just doesn't make sense. But of course, there is a reason for that. But let's look at one thing which we start to talk about, which is the candelabra, the menorah. If you look on the surface, what's the purpose of the menorah? To make light. There's a candelabra. You want to put the light. You see it like this. So terrific. So we build a house for God, and now we need to light it, right? Every house needs lighting, a form of lighting, unless you live in a dungeon. So is the house of God. But here there is an absurd. There's a paradox. God needs lighting. Really? God's needing what? Some kind of government regulation about what kind of lighting we're going to use? What? Without lighting, God is going to be afraid from the dark. And I have the light lit there all the time, 24/7. That just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Why does God need a light? So every house has two different types of apparatuses of light. In the day, we have windows, which allows the natural light to come in. And at night, we have candles. We have light bulbs, right? Electricity, light bulbs. So in regarding to the windows of Bet HaMikdash, let's start looking at this. It also doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. There is a very, very strange expression. And it says, Vayas labayit chalonesh kafim atumim. And he made to the temple on the Temple Mount, windows from glass, in which were clear and yet opaque. Make up your mind, how could it be? And that could be fine. You could look further in which Sefer? We just said it, Melachim Aleph, Kings A, chapter 6,
9.
verse
חף.
4. So the Talmud, in the way of drasha, takes this paradox, and which is shakuf ve'atum, both opaque and then clear, and it says, Lo le'ora ani tzarich, I don't need its light. And then we'll be finding in Masechet
שבת.
Menachot. Daf
מ"ב.
Pevav. Okay, now we're going to 50-50. Amud
ב'.
Gimel.
Bet. Gimel. People think that we have a bunch of whatever. Yeah. So the fact that the window is atum, it means no light can get through it, really shows us that God does not lead a whole production of lights in His place. However, in regards to the menorah, to the candelabra, the Talmud says, God needs candlelight, wants to be romantic, we need to have candle lighting there. I mean, after all, Kol 40 shana, for 40 years in the desert, the Jews went to the light of God. So now God needs light from us. It just doesn't make sense. And that will be in Masechet Shabbat.
Half bed.
Yes.
Amurav.
Amud Bet.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah. All right, Sam. Give a shout out to Sam. Yeah, that was right on the dot, man. Whoa! I give you a pass for that. Wow, Sam. Oh my goodness. So let's leave those questions to the side right now because we're not focusing on that. But let's leave the side and let's try to take advantage of this. And when we're talking about light, to really see what is light all about. Light is, of course, something that we all, dealing with, in terms of whether it's science, the speed of light, the this of light, whatever of light. And also, it's a basic concept when you're talking about anything that we want to describe good and positive and so on and so forth. Or even spirit, we call a spiritual person an enlightened person that saw the light. So, and that is something which is unique because it's in all cultures and languages. But let's look at Judaism. So if you look at the Zohar is called, based on this, light. It's plunder, right? It's light. The Mekubalim, there's Sha'arei Orah, right? Gates of light, and so many different, Orah Chama, so many different things that has to do with light. So according to the Sod, according to the secret of the tradition of Jewish mysticism, it's not, they didn't choose the light just as something that represents something that it's here, that it's clear, and so on and so forth, but even more than that. It says everything is a result of light. Everything is a result of light, a byproduct of life or interaction with the light. The Rambam uses the concept of light as an expression to a person who reached a tremendous understanding and insights, and another expression for the truth. And it was very particular about it. I'm going to read you a part now from the opening for the Guide to the Perplexed. It says, and don't think that the great secrets are known from beginning to an end to any one of us. No, nobody knows them thoroughly. But sometimes the truth is shining upon us until we think that the truth is the day. It's like a light of day, daylight. I mean, you can see everything. After that, our raw material inside of us and our habits and nurture and nature, whatever you want over there, come back and they cover and hover it again. It's almost like the Shabbos light, that they have. The light is always on, you're just turning it and these are the habits. When it comes to the clear side, the light is coming out, and when you turn the thing around, the light is still shining, but you're just covering. And these are our regular habits that we have as people that we are. And it says, until we are finding ourselves in a situation that seems to us like a dark night, not only a night, a dark night. So therefore it's the unrefinements inside of us that causes us not to see the light and come away from the truth. Pay attention very carefully because the Rambam is right on the dot on that. The Rambam, by the way, is amazing. And one of the things that bothers me about people with the Rambam is that it's very difficult for them to accept the Rambam the way he is, and the fact that he was not into mysticism and so on and so forth, and that he actually learned philosophy. To the point that it would come up, would make up stories that the Rambam at the end of the day said, yes, I accept Kabbalah upon myself. What is this, like accepting Jesus, God forbid? And that he regretted learning philosophy. That this is like stories that people make up as they go, I tell you the truth. Because for them it's difficult. But I wish we had a couple more Rambams like this. I think we will have been a totally different place. Let me tell you that. I don't think there was anybody since Moshe Rabbeinu as big as the Rambam. I'll tell you that much. So he says, Meshulim anu, therefore, like somebody that sometimes the lightning comes and shines from time to time his way on a very dark night. So sometimes you see lightning here, lightning there. And there are those people who, for them, everything is light. But most of us are like this. And there are some among us which the lightning strikes so much until he's always in a presence of light. He can see everything because it's an unending light. He sees everything. In other words, the darkness is always there. But you need those light bulbs to shine the way for you. So a person who is connected, for him the darkness is like light. Some people, they have some kind of a light bulb over there and a lightning bolt over there, and so on and so forth. And until this point, he says, Sha'alayla ofech lo leyom, until the night becomes day to him. However, this is a very high level, and that's the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, because it says, V'ata po amod imadi, in Sefer Deuteronomy, Dvarim, it says, and you here shall stay with me. And it says on Moshe Rabbeinu, Ki karan of panai bedabro ito. Moshe Rabbeinu, now pay attention to this, because his face was shining from within out because he spoke to God. Now, in a way, that Moshe Rabbeinu became somewhat of a source of light. Now, V'yesh b'neim, the Rambam writes, Mi shivrik lo abarak pa'am achat b'chol ilot. There are people that once a night he gets like a little lightning bolt so he can see where he's going. V'hi dargat mi shene'emar lehem v'yitnabnu v'lo yisafu. In other words, that they had one time, they ran a rocky strike and they got something, but from that point on, it's not. It's very important to understand what the Rambam is saying. It's very, unfortunately, the Guide for the Perplexed is being read in some, I don't know, maybe in a college Jewish philosophy course, but unfortunately it's not being read in Yeshiva. Unfortunately. I don't know why people are so petrified of the Rambam. I just don't understand that. I mean, I do, but I don't want to say it. I'll say it off camera. So light is very slippery. You can't really grab it, right? So scientists really go back and forth in defining what light is as either a wave or as a gathering of particles together that's what creates the light. Now, even the philosopher who thought about light, right, and tried to define it, and had a hard time defining what light really is. You're going to call it photons, you're going to call it motons, you're going to call it showtown, I don't know, or shy-town, or whatever you want to call it. But in the Torah, and that's the Torah, it says in the Torah and in the Kabbalah, light escapes from its vessels from the very beginning. And that was the first thing that was created on the first day, even though the luminaries in which we have today were created only on the fourth day. But light was there beforehand. So therefore, all the Mefarshim, from the Rishonim to Acharonim, try to really understand what is this light in which we are talking about. And they gave it a name, they call it Or Haganus, the hidden light. Because we don't know what it is, so it's above and beyond us. And they says this is for tzaddikim la'atid lavo. This is for the righteous people in the world to come. They'll be able to, I guess, see if we go to the Rambam, they'll be able to see the actual truth and what everything is all about. They would have a tremendous flow of abundance without any interruption, with any kind of blockage and clogging and so on and so forth. However, how could a light be without a source in which would generate it? How is it possible? And even spread it. So apparently we're talking about a different type of light. Something that is very foreign and mysterious to us, that we don't really know what it is. And that is, by the way, if you know, talking about this, one a great dilemma that painters faced all the way from the beginning of history. How they're going to capture the light. So painters artists, painters, not painters, painters, developed different types of techniques to be able to capture the light and how light reflects and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not an expert in painting. I'm not but I do know a little bit, and I know that people regard Rembrandt as the greatest painters or captures of light. And what was unique about the Rembrandt, that not only he was able to appropriately express and capture a light that was reflecting on the object, he was able, and that's what makes Rembrandt's painting so unique, he was able to express the light that comes from within the people. So much so that until Raya Cook went to, I think, England and saw his paintings, he says, this guy was able to capture the light of the tzaddikim that Atid Lavo. This guy who painted is something special, is a unique human being. Because he was able to capture something that we don't see. So only a person at a very high spiritual level can express to see that. Now, if you want to know, when people are so, it's ridiculous. People talking about, oh, I see your aura. What do you say? Angora. I don't know. Maybe you say, but they don't say aura. People don't see aura. People, if they do, they probably want to check after that. But those who were very, very special, like the Ari and people like that, were able to see the light shining from within you. And it says that the Ari knew if a person is going to die because within 30 days the shadow disappears from you. So if he sees a person without a shadow, so it means that within 30 days he dies. Now this is impossible. How is it impossible? I mean, if there is a light source, there's going to be a shadow. We're not talking about that light. We're talking about the shadow that the light from inside reflects on him. When the Ari saw that light source is diminishing, he knew the guy would die. So that light is very, very important. This is the light in which a person can see misofa olam ve'atzafo, from one end of the world to the other, including the future and so on and so forth, because he's able to see the truth. Everything that we have here on earth, everything on earth, is basically a derivative of the reflection of the lights that we get from the stars and from the sun and whatever it is, that energy, right? And the energy of the, that we get here, or the light that we get here, comes, we all know, from a yellow star, middle-aged yellow star, right? That takes about 8 minutes for his light to come here, and we call it the sun, right? And which is very interesting. The light of the sun becomes life with the partnership of plant cells and animals and so on and so forth, and that's how we live. We eat plants, we eat vegetables, we eat this, we eat that. Try to grow a plant in darkness, doesn't grow. We need light for that. So that's very interesting. So the principle behind this process is nothing so special, but rather a transformation and a change of energy from one form to another form of energy that allows the single cell to multiply and to really survive and make it. It makes the trees bloom and grow and the tiger to go and eat his meat. That's what allows you, the transformation of energy from the sun, which is some kind of plasma burst, into the light that we get here through photosynthesis and so on and so forth. Or, for example, for a man to write his own history or to write Torah. That transformation of energy. And that connection to light is done, and through many, as far as if we are plants, our own photosynthesis of light can come through certain actions that their job is to really uplift our lives from a low frequency, which we call it Gola, to a high frequency, which is called Geula. From a frequency of disconnect, darkness, lacking, pain, to a frequency of being connected to the light of joy, abundance, bracha. That's why a person who is always complaining is never going to be happy with what he has. The person who always complains is an indicator that he is actually not connected. There is a spiritual disconnect between him and the shefa that comes down. He is in the reality of golah, of exile. If you look at what you have, say, my goodness, I'm a lot. I have a lot. As little as you think you have, I'm willing to guarantee you that most likely you have much more than your father had at your age. Or your grandfather. Or many people next door to you. So it depends on your attitude. So from here we could say that the word Terumah does not describe the action of giving, but rather the result that is being caused for the person who gives when he gives with the proper attitude. And that's why I said to you, do you give because you want to? Do you give tzedakah because you care? Do you want to support the yeshiva because, hey, listen, I appreciate, or because you have to do it? If you go with the I have to, because not because I have to, it's my right and my obligation. Because listen, what can I do? No, that's all I gotta do. That's a mentality of golah, of exile. When you want to give because your attitude is right, then it becomes you're lifting up, and Hashem will lift you out of this Terumah Hashem. You're going to lift up Hashem. And then you're going to be happy with what you have. Again, a person who always complains, a cheap person, shows and indicates that you or that person has a spiritual blockage. Spiritual blockage. And with the proper attitude, when you want to do it, when you want to share, you see a friend that needs a ride. You know he needs a ride. You don't rush the first one out of the door, pretend you're deaf and dumb, and you just rush through. You wish you could run to the wall just not to give your friend a ride. But you have a car, what's the big deal? Go out of your way. Give somebody a ride, especially if it's on your way. What's the big deal? That shows a spiritual blockage. When you have in the attitude of only give me, that's a spiritual blockage. You're never going to be happy, you're not going to be content, you're going to be a miserable person. I've seen people, believe me, oh my goodness. I went one time with my kids, I think at the time I had only, I don't remember, 3 or 4 kids. I went to visit my grandparents' my grandparents' neighbors, and they were getting old and didn't know if the wife was alive, was not alive. And let me tell you, they were very poor. They were super poor. And we came in, and I just want to say hi, to say hello, hi, and then go back into the car, go back home to my parents. And that was like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. They would not let me leave my wife and my kids. They called the kids to come from nearby town. They came in and food and eat, and I said no, and I'm trying to come up with excuses. I need to go and wash my kids. Don't worry, I'll wash them. Take this one, wash them, give them a bath. Well, I need clothes. Don't worry, we'll give them clothes. I just couldn't believe the generosity of these people. Why? Because they were connected, and they would never complain. Aleim Shalom be'emet. They were such wonderful people. And the name is Mishpachat Gol. Oh, okay, Gol. In Israel. Sarah and David. What amazing people. When my wife and I came to clean the house, because my grandfather didn't live there, so we came to clean the house. All of a sudden I hear a knock on the door. She comes in with 2 giant trays. Most amazing Yemenite food. Very humble. But it was one of the best meals I ever had in my life. You know why? Because he came from a heart, from a good place. He came from a good place. That's why your mother's food tastes good, even though I would taste it, I would say, oh, it's just a terrible cook. Your mother's food tastes good because hopefully, most of the time the food comes from the heart. And you feel it. Well, sometimes mommy needs to make adjustment on the cholesterol intake but that's not what we're talking about here. So a person who is disconnected, you could tell right away who's going. A person who is generous, he's the person who sees the light. A person who he's the shefa. He's the kind of a person who is able to mamash do things and be mekadesh Shem shamayim. A person who is cheap, a complainer, doesn't want to give, doesn't care. This is a person that most likely, I'll tell you this, most likely will do chilul Hashem. Most likely will do chilul Hashem. A person that likes to give and sees any opportunity. Oh, he hears you need something here. I'll buy you this for you. I didn't ask for it. It's okay. I heard you need it. It's okay. That kind of a person is probably the person who's capable of doing kiddush Hashem. And you got to remember that. So when you give, therefore you turning the light into a material, into an instrument in which you're able to break stones, and I'm talking about stone hearts, to shape, to build, to use it as a hammer, as a jackhammer, to break walls and boundaries between people, to bring up. I mean, I do believe that the world is on a verge of a world war, not because of Putin, and not because of Biden, and not because of whatever is in China. I don't think it's because of that. I think it's because we are very selfish. We don't want to help one another. And that disconnect brings death. A person desires light, he desires good, he wants redemption, right? And it says in Yeshayahu, Isaiah 9 verse 1. Ha'am ha'olchim b'choshech, the people who walk in darkness, ra'u or gadol, saw great light. Yoshvei ba'eretz tzal mavet, or noga alehem. The people in the darkness always have great light. So I'm going to tell you this, and we're going to finish with this. The world is dark. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu created it in dark. The world is dark. It's hard. It's filled with evil, with hardship. In order to succeed in this world, pay attention. You don't need to go to an Ivy League university. The only thing you're going to get from Ivy League University, actually the few things you're going to get in Ivy League universities, is first of all a hole in your pocket and probably some kind of like poison ivy infection. That's about it. You're not going to get anything else. In order to succeed, you need to reach the light. In order to succeed, you need to reach the light. You need to be able to, as we say, ledamot milta lemilta, to compare one thing to another, to turn the light of the goodness of Hashem to something that it's tangible, that it's real, and you see it with your own eyes. You see it with your own eyes. Light is like water and a rock. Only then you could contain it and then use it for your purposes, because you can't really grab it. You can grab water, but you need to learn how to create a pipe to direct the water to where you want it to go. And that's what it is. Ask any plumber. You're going to go to a fire hydrant, you're going to open a fire hydrant. You can control this thing. Put a soda can beforehand, and you'll spritz it whatever way you want. Ask any kid in Harlem, will tell you. And some people will say that it's an illusion, because light is light and not water and not rock. And some would say that no, only a controlled illusion. In other words, only a dream could overcome your harsh and nasty reality. In other words, a person that does not have a dream, something to strive, not daydreaming. That's for procrastinators. A dream, a vision to go through, would never be able to accomplish and overcome reality, and it would consume you. And in our world today, that the world today is not to achieve, not to work hard, to expect everything to be handed to you on a silver platter, that's why we crumble under society. You want to know why everything becomes so impossible to live, but things are so expensive, is because of that. And you should know that any action that there is love in it, there is caring in it, there is, to be large, creates closeness with the upper world, and that is in a way the secret of life. When we're going to be able to come out of ourselves, to think about the other person, only then is Tarum Hashem, only then is going to be the Terumah. And everything, so therefore everything that is going to be done in the meaning of to lift up God's name, Tarum Hashem, for God's honor, only then you would be able to put real love and dedication and giving to it. Then there's going to be a tremendous, beautiful, healthy flow between the upper worlds and us. Then we put a frequency of holiness in everything that we do, because everything you do is for the sake of God, to elevate God's name in this world. And whether it's your house that you build, whether it's your family, whether it's your business, whether it's your working out, or anything that you do, only you have to bring Hashem. You have to do it for the sake of Hashem. Ve'asu li migdash. And they should do a holy action to me. Ve'asu li migdash. In other words, your action, your asiyah, has to be for the sake of Hashem. Then it becomes kadosh. And then v'shachanti betocham. Then I will dwell among them. Then you will have the blessing. Then you will have the abundance. Betocham velo betocho. Inside of them, not inside of it. Only then, us, creation, abundance, we're going to be one. So this is the secret of success. Shabbat Shalom.